Let the music roll. Woo, man, oh man, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I am your host, Rob Haytain. Joined with me is my co-host, Brendon Cox. Guys, the Boston Celtics went on an absolute tear yet again in this early 2024-2025 preseason campaign. Guys, tonight the Celtics, winners of the first game at TD Garden this year, facing off against the Philadelphia 76ers, 139-89. Jaylen Brown was your leading scorer tonight, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists on 58% from the floor. How about Luke Kornet really spicing the game up here, 15 points, 8 rebounds. Brendon, we got a lot to talk about, obviously, with the Celtics tonight. 50-point win, first game at home. We saw a lot of, good positive things coming from both units here, really all three units we saw. However, tonight we got to start off by talking about the player spotlight. Luke Kornet, man, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 7 of 10 from the floor. Luke getting the start here in the preseason, still without seeing Al Horford. Brendon, what did you like tonight from Luke Kornet?
Everything. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. Obviously, just saying everything. I mean, obviously, keeping doing his job, like in the paint. I love how he's just consistently scoring in the paint, helping out with that. So I don't want to jump the gun though, but I think we found our center for the until Porzingis comes back. I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but I don't care. Right. I'm saying it now. So
well, I'll tell you what, that's been a topic of conversation here moving forward with the Celtics, is that with Kristaps Porzingis being out and Al Horford's age, are we going to see a situation that, presents a Luke Kornet or Xavier Tillman stepping up into the starting lineup, kind of allowing Al Horford here to keep his, legs fresh and, stay well rested until those playoff time comes, until we really need him, in May and June, expecting we still be playing then. So, Luke, obviously tonight, I think he did a phenomenal job. I will say a smaller Philadelphia 76ers team that we saw tonight than, normally you would see in the regular season. Obviously, Gershon Yabusele, former Boston Celtic, starting at center for the Sixers. I want to say he's listed at 6'8", compared to Luke Kornet 7'1". So again, a matchup that, presents a real advantage for Luke Kornet, but I think he was able to kind of step in tonight and, like I said earlier, spice the game up. I liked what I saw. I thought he was great in the high pick and roll. I thought he was a phenomenal offensive rebounder here tonight in giving the Celtics a second chance. There was one play that stuck with me. It was a missed Tatum 3 offensive rebound, and it was a beautiful, just dump down, quick tip pass to Holiday for the layup. So phenomenal things from Luke Kornet's side of things, Brendon, right? And then on the flip side of that, his running mate off this bench here, kind of Xavier Tillman. Now, I remember earlier this offseason, we talked about on a podcast somebody that was, who we were looking for and who was exciting, and someone we both kind of agreed on is Xavier Tillman here with his first full season in Boston. Brendon, and I'm not going to lie, so far, that take is looking pretty damn good, because in this game, Xavier Tillman, 11 points, 7 rebounds. He added 2 stocks, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 of 3 from behind the arc. That is now 6 of 8, 75% from the 3-point line this season. Brendon, when you talk about what you've seen from Xavier Tillman, obviously no Porzingis or Horford this preseason, but when you look at specifically his ability now to space the floor and become a 3-point threat, what does that kind of present here for the Celtics moving forward if you're going to be able to have a player like Tillman with his defensive ability? And if he starts to make threes, how is that going to benefit Boston?
It's going to benefit, that we have, more key weapons to the team, shooting the 3 ball too. I mean, right. There's some guys that we're not going to expect they're going to take those shots, but if he can keep consistently, just firing him, obviously, but we want to make sure that he gets comfortable too, but obviously keep your role the way it is. But obviously if you find some new cons, and obviously do that. So that's going to be a big key this season for him as well.
I'll tell you what, Boston's bench is really interesting because they don't have one guy that can do it all for you, right? They don't really have a guy that is the 6th man of the year caliber, a Jordan Clarkson, right? Or a Naz Reid or a Malcolm Brogdon like we've had, right? They don't really have that. And their names aren't eye popping off the screen. But what they do have, and I think Tillman here is kind of developing within the system, they have a phenomenal foundation, right? And they have a group of players that the cohesion is so there and they work so well together that, you have a bunch of guys that you can go to in different situations, in different, points out throughout the season. So, Tillman here, I think, is going to be perfect when you're playing a team that you want to get that draw that big man out of the paint on the offensive side of the ball, right? If you're playing a Minnesota Timberwolves and you're trying to draw Rudy Gobert out of that paint, if Tillman's knocking down shots from behind the three-point line at the clip, and obviously we're not asking for 75%, right? We don't need any Steph Curry numbers here, but what we're looking for is anything above 33%, right? Exactly. So, anything that Tillman can do from behind the three-point line is huge. And I think we're kind of starting to see how, his time in Boston, him spending more time is going to benefit him in the long run because he looks just so much more comfortable.
Very much more comfortable. Yeah, I know. I think this is definitely going to be, like, I know we keep talking about the absence of Porzingis too, but like he didn't really, even when he was in Memphis, right? He didn't really get that kind of role when other players were out too. So this is kind of like his best fit to, kind of make his presence known, make a name for himself. So this is the perfect way to do it too.
Absolutely. And again, it's like, when you look at this team and it's like, maybe this sounds crazy, right? But maybe this Porzingis, absence for these big men is the best thing to happen to these guys, right? Because it's not long-term, right? You figure by game 30, you're going to have them back and you're going to get these guys a chance to get some real runs against a lot of other NBA teams' best units. And, usually some of these guys don't see action like that, especially, Kornet and Tillman more so. But, you throw in a guy like Neemias Queta, who didn't see much run last year against other teams' ones or twos, more so playing in the, later half of the game against the threes and the fours, right? So I really do think, when you look at this Porzingis injury, go glass half full. And I do think that there are some positives to draw from it. And one of those or two of those are what we've seen now from Xavier Tillman and Luke Kornet, because I definitely think it is very impressive the roles and how Joe Mazzulla has implemented them into the offense and defense early on here. Someone else now that Joe Mazzulla has worked on implementing is Lonnie Walker. Now, Walker got a unique opportunity tonight, and I remember we had Celtics insiders or Finn Sands on the podcast about, I want to say 3 weeks ago, and I asked him was, how do you see Joe Mazzulla using Lonnie Walker? And he's nailed it so far. We kind of saw him in the first game get the garbage time, last 3-minute runs. Then we saw him in the second game kind of get sprinkled in there with the third unit in the third quarter and sprinkled in the fourth quarter. And then tonight, we see Lonnie Walker sprinkled in entirely into that second unit, right, Brendon? And tonight, when you watch the game, his numbers aren't, eye-popping. When you're just watching it, right, you'd figure, well, he finished with 9 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 1 block on 24 minutes. He shot 4-7 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3. It was a plus 27, which is the second best on the team behind Xavier Tillman. Brendon, we talk about dynamic and uniqueness off this Celtics bench. You see Lonnie Walker, you hear a number like 7 assists. How important could that be to add just a little bit more depth to this team? What did you see from Lonnie Walker tonight?
I think I saw exactly what we need for this bench is a very veteran wing player. So I think that, like I said before to Justin the last show, he's helped a lot of other teams, make good runs in their playoff runs. So I think this is what we need to just bring to this team too. We didn't need much change, but it's good that we have a little bit of change. And I think that he definitely can be somebody that will, put up these random numbers, but in a good way, obviously. Not saying that in a crappy way, but obviously
Right.
It's going to help the team this year, with the wing depth for sure.
I will say I was very impressed about his ability to kind of fit in. And, obviously, I thought it was a little weird at first. I was watching, I'm watching the game here, third quarter, and the second unit was phenomenal tonight. Pritchard and Hauser and Tillman and Queta and Walker, that 5-man unit was really, really, really impressive tonight. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I've seen a lot of corner sitting from Lonnie Walker. And, I'm kind of like, I'm looking for him. Like, go get the ball, go get the ball. But what he's doing, he's going to feel for the game. And I think, something we've talked about, I know it in the group chat and I know it on the podcast, right? Something we talk about with Lonnie Walker, if you want to get minutes here in Boston, right? We know you have the talent, but are you going to be able to integrate yourself in a cohesion aspect, right? Are you going to be able to, fit into this already championship proven bench, right, with ease, and not make it anything more than easy, simple, and fluent transition. And I'll tell you what, Brendon, tonight I think Lonnie Walker looks very, very promising, and I think he's going to get an even bigger opportunity, maybe even to get some run with Tatum, Brown, and those guys tomorrow night. If you see all those, I think you probably only see about half the ones out there, but very impressive. I mean, 7 assists, 9 points, 4 right. Just he was able to contribute, right, and you saw that he was contributing with the ball in his hands with those 7 assists. He was contributing when the ball wasn't in his hands with those 9 points, 2 steals, and 1 block. And that's what you need, right? That what I saw from Lonnie Walker was a guy that was going out there. He was energetic. He was making plays. And for me, I don't know where you're at with him, but this game gave me that reassurance that I think this guy might have just punched his ticket onto this roster.
I think we're at a good place with him. Yeah. I think, there were talks about him when he got signed that he might not be able to, he might get cut from the training camp. But I mean, I think that it's only preseason and he's proven that he definitely can get a guaranteed deal. I don't think not many people expected him to not make the team, but I think obviously, like I said plenty of times, hand in hand, like, when it's like you even said too, when, his hands aren't with the ball, he's going to obviously contribute a lot of times too. So it's going to help a lot.
Yeah. And something I've also kind of pulled from this, and, it's a lot harder when you're Lonnie Walker and you're playing for the Brooklyn Nets than you are when you're Lonnie Walker playing for the Boston Celtics, right? Because everything Lonnie Walker had to create for himself was created, like I just said, by himself. Everything he had to create last year was created by himself. This year, you see him already playing alongside Pritchard and Hauser and these guys, right? Your life is easier. You're going to get a little bit more open, right? You're going to get to your spots a little bit easier. You're going to get more transition opportunities off deflections, right? Stuff like that. And with a player who, the talent level of Lonnie Walker, mind you, offensively, I'm going to keep saying this. He's probably the most talented overall all-around offensive player in terms of scoring and getting a bucket that the Celtics have off the bench, right? When you give a guy with that much raw talent a sound scheme and system, right, it could be pretty special to see. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Lonnie Walker. But I mean, again, first step is to make the team, right? I don't want to judge a jump a gun, right? He's got to make the team first. But I'll tell you what, as a man that's been advocating for the Boston Celtics and Brad Stevens and, the organization to make a move for this guy, tonight was a good feeling to see him kind of, get the run and produce in the level he did, in the efficiency level he did as well. It was good tonight. And I was happy to see that. It'd feel wrong not to talk about the 2 stars tonight, right? It would just feel wrong. Brown and Tatum, they came in and they did the preseason thing. They played another 23 minutes. It's really where Joe's been putting them at, 23, 24, in that range. They both had 18 and 16 respectfully. Both had, Brown had 8 rebounds, Tatum had 10. Brown had 4 assists, Tatum had 6. Tatum added on 2 stocks. Tatum 3 of 8 tonight from behind the arc, 37.5%, Brendon. Now, if we talk about Tatum right now first, because it feels like we're looking for a little bit more out of Tatum this preseason than we are for Brown, specifically in that jump shot. Now, we've seen, 3 of 7 in the first game against Denver and the second game, both times 3 of 7. Tonight, we see 3 of 8. What do you think of that? Because I know, his volume of behind the arc has been a heavy topic of conversation, but what do you think? Are you liking what you're seeing from Tatum behind the arc, or are you looking for something else?
No, I mean, obviously this is, this is it's obviously we know that this is going to be a new form he's trying to work out with from the off season too. So far I like it. I mean, I need to kind of get used to it too, but I don't dislike it, or, I'm just I'm waiting to see how this goes. I'm just waiting for, I'm not saying I'm waiting for it to get any bad. I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen next. Is basically what I'm basically looking forward to the next game and seeing if it's going to either progress or go down. So
something I've noticed about Tatum that I will say, obviously, I think his 3-point shot selection has become a lot better. Obviously, he's taking 7 and 8 threes in 23 minutes versus 35 minutes. So you'd figure if it's the preseason, so you'd figure he's going to be a little bit more lazy because he's going to be a little bit more relaxed. So I think the averages are going to be, that's where he's going to be at, 7, 8, 9 in that area throughout the regular season. I'm liking what I'm seeing from behind the arc. I'm not looking for 40, 50%. Give me 37, give me 36. I think that's where he needs to be at. His form looks good. Something I've noticed already from a schematical point of view, right? Opposing teams are already, I think, implementing when Tatum and Brown are on the court. They're so focused on them. And I've noticed, Brendon, the game is so wide open right now for White and Holiday. And tonight we saw it was Cornette and Pritchard and Hauser and Horford when he's been, and then in Porzingis when he's back. And, all these players, it's so obvious. And, it had me there sitting watching the game tonight. And when you're playing the Boston Celtics, you have to pick and choose. Are you going to make Tatum and Brown become playmakers and close in on them? Because at this point in their career, what they're showing me this preseason is that's clockwork for them these days. They can do that with their eyes closed, be playmakers. And, they're doing it at such a great level and high level that, when you look at Brown and Tatum, how has their growth really been on display in the playmaking department? Because to me, it's amazing what we've seen from them.
Yeah. In terms of playmaking, yeah, I mean, I think they're just trying to obviously, they're just getting better, and they're trying to, even though they've been in this game a long time, they're trying to, contribute in different ways and just add on to what they can, they've already accomplished. And so I think it's just good that they want to, help this team in every aspect too. And so the playmaking comes in handy for sure, especially if they want to help lead this team. So
absolutely. And I'll tell you what, it wouldn't be a preseason postgame show if we didn't give love to the end of the bench. Two guys in particular I want to talk about: the rookie Baylor Shireman and the second-year guy Jordan Walsh. Walsh tonight from behind the arc. Now this, I think, to me, is something that has held him back from getting NBA minutes and playing in the G League, and it's that three-point shot. I think Joe Mazzulla and his coaching staff is waiting and making sure that his jumper is NBA ready and able to be hit at a consistent clip. Tonight, it looked much more promising than what we saw in the Summer League in the first couple of preseason games in Abu Dhabi, Brandon. 3 of 3 from the three-point line. Jordan Walsh, obviously, he's got the frame. He's a 6'7" defender with long arms. 11 points tonight. Do you think there's an opportunity here with the lack of wing depth this team has for Jordan Walsh to slot into some, weird, funky rotations here this upcoming year?
Not in two big roles, I don't think yet, but I think he definitely can. I can definitely see him helping the wing a lot too, along with Lonnie and along with Hauser too. It's definitely gonna. I keep saying it's gonna help us a lot. Everything's gonna try and help us, but still, he definitely is someone. If he can keep making that 3-point shot, like you said, I think it's definitely gonna help us with our wings.
I mean, this guy, you watch him and it's like, all right, you got the frame. His shot looks smooth. His game looks smooth. It's the minor details and tweaks. It reminds me of a rookie Mikal Bridges. Is who if you squint your eyes, that's who his game reminds me of. And, I think that, it's a weird situation for him. You're playing for a team that doesn't really have the time to let you sit there, grow and develop. They need production now. So, I think the opportunity could be there on occasion. But I don't know if it's this year. I don't know if he's ready this quite yet. He's still young. He's 20 years old. He was a one and done player at Arkansas that came in, and I'll tell you what, he's looked promising through Maine. The summer league was, I don't want to say terrible, but it was disappointing to say the least. And, I will say tonight against Philadelphia, Jordan Walsh definitely, looked promising, and that's a positive. The other guy I want to talk about, Baylor Shireman, right? The rookie from Creighton. a guy that we haven't seen much of tonight. You saw a little run from him, some streaky shooting, but I want to say he was active and aggressive on the boards. Brendon, when you look at a guy like Baylor Shireman, his competition, I hate to say it, is Jordan Walsh. They're kind of competing here for minutes. When you look at the two of them, which one do you think presents a more beneficial role to the Celtics this upcoming year if needed?
I would just say, if you want to talk about like experience wise, I would just probably say Jordan Walsh, but I think definitely, am I wrong or right? Baylor Shireman 60% from Creighton shooting the three. Does that sound accurate?
I want to say it was in the 40s. I want to say it was 42.
Yeah. Okay. So close enough, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be. It could be a little bit of a close race, but I would give it to probably Jordan Walsh, is what I think can definitely help out more.
The weird thing about Shireman to me is he's 24. He's got 4 years on Walsh, which is so weird to me because Walsh has the NBA experience, right? He's more experienced in the NBA. He saw some action last year. He was around the team through their playoff run. He's won an NBA championship and has been around in the locker room, right? He's experienced so much in just 1 year. Yet a guy like Shireman is 24. So it's an interesting dynamic. Shireman reminds me a lot of Jaime Jaquez, and obviously not to that scale because Jaime coming out of the draft was much more polished and NBA ready. However, I don't think this guy is too far away from being able to get some run with this team. And it will be interesting because I do think there is a little bit of leeway with the season, especially in the first half with Porzingis out, to maybe get a little bit of action in a third quarter game against Toronto where we need a little bit of something. So I do think there are minutes to grab here at certain points of the season for this Celtics team. And I'll tell you what, a lot of guys, look promising. So, before we wrap up here, I do want to talk about these two individuals because I thought they, did a phenomenal job tonight, pushing the pace and really extending this lead. Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard. Brendon, these are two guys that have improved every single year since they've gotten to Boston. They are both, brought up, drafted here, and just been a huge off the bench, and has really exceeded expectations. I will say they look better than they ever have this preseason. Hauser and Pritchard, what are your expectations for these guys this upcoming year?
I think they definitely can help our bench improve a lot too. They're both growing. Excuse me. Hauser's the guy we need for catch and shoot threes. Peyton can definitely be that, one of those guys that just gets lets loose every night. So I'm just happy that we're gonna have these guys going for this year. Hauser, especially, we need him for that 3-point percentage too, and then for Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, I want both these guys to just help up the bench in every aspect they can because so far they've been doing a great job.
My biggest thing for these two. What are you doing if your shot's not falling? You need to contribute in other aspects. Tonight, Peyton Pritchard, he had 2 steals and 8 assists. Shot wasn't falling. Guess what? He went out there and he contributed at an extremely high level. Sam Hauser, guess what? His shot was falling tonight. 5 of 6 from behind the arc, right? So it's real nice when their shot's falling, but how can these guys, contribute to another level? Do something else. Go out, get 7 rebounds, right? Go get 3 steals. Draw a charge. Right? Something. Because I'll tell you what, with this Celtics team, you don't need a whole lot of scoring off the bench. You just kind of need to piece together around 15 to 20 points through 4 guys, right? You don't need a whole lot. Go out there and be energy guys. And they were that last year. And when these guys are playing with energy and their shots falling, it's some of the best bench depth we have in the league. So, I'm looking for that consistency this year out of Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser. We saw it at times last year, and when we saw it, it's phenomenal. But just let me see you string together for just a little bit longer this year. And I think they're absolutely going to do it because they looked as sharp as ever this preseason, They've been great. So I'm very excited to see Pritchard and Hauser, moving forward. And I'll tell you what, they're going to do that tomorrow night back at the TD Garden. That tip-off is at 7 o'clock against the Toronto Raptors. Guys, after the final buzzer sounds at that game, come right back to this channel, Celtics Talk Weekly, for yet again another post-game show. We'll have you covered live after the final buzzer. Guys, thank you so much for joining us in the Boston Celtics faced off against the Philadelphia 76ers and picked up the big time win, 139-89. That was the first game of the 2024-2025 campaign for the Boston Celtics in the preseason. They were able to blow out the Philadelphia 76ers, guys. I'm Rob. Next to me is my nan, Brendon Cox. And until next time, you guys know how it is. Go Celtics.